I started it, Jer. I remembered. It's on like a 30-second delay. The FCC is on. All right, Kyle. You there? Is this working? Go ahead, Kyle.
The meeting tonight is for the conduct of town business by the town board. The public is invited to participate at the items marked on the agenda, public comment. During that segment of the meeting, if you have a question or comment for the supervisor, please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. Please state your full name and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Thank you for your continued cooperation.
Okay, thanks everybody we're here for the August 11th, 7 p.m. meeting for the town board. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a moment of silence, please, for all those who made the ultimate sacrifice so that we could serve our country and our town. Thank you. All right. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I think you're going to do a lot of that tonight.
Yeah, I think so too.
Motion to approve the minutes from the July I didn't make a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the July 28th, 2025 town board meeting.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to pay the bills, authorize payment of the bills. Need a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the payment of the bills.
I second it.
And I'm just going to give the public, it's a big bill, I just want to give you some aspects here of what it is. It's over $700,000.
$733,000.
Yeah, $733,000. So $541,000 of that is the blacktopping. So every year we get the big blacktop bill, $541,000. A lot of that we get back from CHIPS. $14,700 is from the remaining balance for plumbing at the community center. We have $19,000. That's our Edmonds government contract we have for all our systems. $55,000. That's our yearly bill from the district for this building, for all utilities, heating, electrical, water, everything. And $10,897 is Vanderwater, and that's pretty much paid for mostly by our escrow accounts, but we have to claim it. So just to give you some background on some of the bigger bills there. Comments on the agenda. Anybody have any specific comments on the agenda? Reports of department. Everybody have gotten the reports from the departments, right? I only see Jerry and Colleen and Tommy here and Charlie, so we've got quite a few. You have any comments or questions for any of them while they're here? If not?
No, none for me.
Then we're going to go on to our presentation. Supervisor Lanzetta's here to speak about Frank Scartatos, the community center. You guys all got the letter that, Al, you want me to read the letter or you want to read their letter?
I can read it.
Okay, yeah. I think it'd be good you could read it.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, board. Thank you, Supervisor Corcoran, for allowing me to present this. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Especially when you met with me. I appreciate that also.
Absolutely. Of course.
So, Al Lanzetta, 198 Reservoir Road, Marlborough, New York. Dear Supervisor Corcoran and members of the Marlborough Town Board, I hope this letter finds you well. I'm writing to respectfully propose the installation of a memorial photographic portrait of the late Assemblyman Frank Scartatos in the Marlborough Community Center. As a dedicated public servant and a deeply respected member of our community, Mr. Scartatos left a lasting impact that continues to be felt today. Throughout his years of service in New York State Assembly, Frank Scottatos was a tireless advocate of the Hudson Valley and a committed supporter of our local schools, small businesses, veterans, and environmental activities. His leadership, integrity, unwavering dedication to the people of Marlborough, Milton, and the surrounding region very truly exemplary. Assemblyman Scottatos was the first elected official to obtain a significant grant to enable the development of the new community center. Installing a portrait in his honor at the community center would serve not only as a tribute to his memory, but also an enduring symbol of civic responsibility, compassion, and public service. I would appreciate an opportunity for current and future generations to reflect on the values he upheld and positive changes he helped bring about. I kindly request that the town board consider this proposal and take the necessary steps to approve the placement of a framed portrait of Frank Scottatos in a prominent and respectful location within the Marlborough Community Center. I would be glad to assist in coordinating with obtaining the portrait photograph, having it framed, and arranging a ceremony for its installation. Thank you for your consideration and for your continued effort to honor those who have made a meaningful difference in our community. Sincerely, Alan. Just show and tell reference.
Yeah.
Is my beautiful daughter, who's about, but this would be like the size of the frame.
Yeah.
And so it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good size. I have a few things. So, Frank, the town of Marlborough Community Center would be a fitting place for a memorial portrait because Frank was the first official to see the importance of the community center and secure the grant of $250,000 to begin the process of renovating the building. As Supervisor Corcoran was on the board when that happened. It is hoped that the portrait of Frank will serve as a symbol of importance of civic responsibility and encourage future residents of the town of Marlborough to get involved in public service. Just a little short story about Frank. So he was so dedicated to this community, Marlborough and Milton. He loved it very much. As an assemblyman, he used to always say he wasn't a show horse, he was a workhorse. And he proved that. He, over $1 million, I think, in different areas, sewer, sidewalks, et cetera. Frank was always there. So when Frank was dying, he was dying of pancreatic cancer, one of the most dreadful cancers that anybody could get. He was up in St. Luke's. I was there with him at that time. His chief of staff, Steve Gold, was there. Mr. Kaplan was there. He was a very good friend of Frank. And Frank knew it was coming to the end of his life. And he turned around to Steve Gold and he said, make sure that the town of Marlborough gets the $250,000. Because at that time, Frank knew that his time was short. And if Frank had died without signing any paperwork, we would definitely have not gotten that $250,000. So it's a little story to show how dedicated Frank was, even on his last days on this earth. So I give you the consideration of doing the honors, see if we could, this is not sponsored by any political group. It's just myself. I'll do all the, I'll get the frame, the picture, and I think appropriately maybe it would say at the bottom, Assemblyman Frank Scartalos, July 4th, 1970, April 15, 2018. He was a workhorse, not a show horse. So, with your consideration, thank you very much.
I think anybody that knew Frank knew that he was a generous, giving gentleman, always had a huge smile on his face, right? I think almost everybody in this room probably knew Frank pretty well. And the thing I really liked about Frank, he wasn't a partisan. He didn't care if you were one side or the other side. He only cared about the town of Marlborough. And he worked with everybody. And he did get back just about $1 million worth of funds to this town and different projects that he worked with at the time with Supervisor Lanzetta and our board. He was very generous to this town. And, you know, I think they called him Farmer Frank up at the assembly. And he did do a little farming over on the property there. So, you know, I think it was a great idea, suggestion, because I agree with you. I would have to probably say if Frank didn't get that $250,000 for the community center, I don't know if it would have went through to where it is today. So it was a kickoff to what happened. It took a little longer than we thought, but, you know, we followed through on that vision, this board, following from your board, and I think we did a good job in memory of Frank. So, you know, I had a good conversation with Supervisor Lanzetta about this, and you know, I wouldn't have any issues with putting something up for Frank. I just wanted to make sure I wanted him to come speak to the board, and if you guys had specific questions yourself or anything like that, I think this is a great time to, you know, speak up and say what you think. I mean, if you think it's a good idea or not a good idea, but you want to say anything?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, if we're going to go that way, I don't know, this is my personal opinion. We have two large rooms there, dedicated that room, instead of room 1, room 2, you could have it one room dedicated to Frank and another one for any future representative that we'd like to dedicate that room to. So it's Marlborough Community Center, the building, and it won't be a bad idea to dedicate it to outstanding resident of or person in Marlborough that were constructive to the community center or for other Marlborough endeavors. So
yeah, I think I talked to this with Al. It's like I think what would be a good idea is to have an adjacent plaque of all those that had contributed to the community center, kind of like what we had down at the train station, where you have that nice plaque and it says these are the people that helped build this community center, and you know. But,
have it like a billboard.
Yeah, like you know, just the names or groups, you know, inclusive of the highway department, the water department. You know, these are the people that actually helped it. Our deputy supervisor, building, you know, I mean, Tom, everybody contributed to this building in some way, in some form, and that's why it makes perfect sense that it's a community center, because the community helped build it. And Frank was a big part of our community, and you know, I think it's a great idea, but I think we should also, like you said, Manny, recognize everybody that kind of, you know, including, you know, Supervisor Lanzetta and that board, because if it wasn't for that board, it probably wouldn't have went through, right? So I think everybody should have a little part in recognition on that building. So I don't know what you think, Sheriff. But.
No, I think that's a really good idea and would be a nice addition to the community center. In terms of the picture, I think it's great to recognize Assemblyman Scartados. I think we should probably walk the room and decide where the picture should go. I know you have people that are renting that for more formal occasions, for weddings and different things. So I would just hate for it to be something that constantly gets put up and taken down and put up and taken down. by whoever has the room. So I'd just be concerned with the spot of it and where it goes so that it's not obtrusive, but
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a nice idea.
That's definitely one of my concerns, just because in the last couple of rentals we've had actually some minor issues, I'll say. But, you know, it's definitely a concern, you know.
Yeah.
I think the safest spot, which is is in the meeting room for all these things, just because they can't get in there, but I do want it to show somewhere also. I also, you know, I still got the scissors from the ceremony, I got the ribbon from the ceremony, so those are things I want to incorporate into the community center as well. So I think what we can do, Al, is we can collaborate together and come up with a good plan to have a nice ceremony, not just for Frank, but also inclusive of other people too, and do a multiple unveiling, I should say. But for the most part, it's going to be about Frank, who started the building. But so I think what we should do is just follow up if the board's okay with everything, and we'll have another meeting and we'll figure it out. Is that all right?
So, my understanding, so could I continue with the project with Frank and the flag?
Yeah. Yeah, unless anybody here has any objections. And I talked to Dave and I talked to Eddie, and they were also supportive of it. Dave's away on vacation and Eddie's not feeling well, so I apologize for not being here, but you know, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea that you acknowledge all the people that are put over the hard work, including yourself, with the community center. I think that would be better for these guys. But my concern right now is just to
Yeah.
do a nice picture of Frank. What I understand is that he has an uncle and a nephew in the area, and just a small private looking unveiling.
Yeah, that's good.
With the town board.
I think what we want to do is, like what Sheridan said, is like we'll get a few of us together and walk together and see where we think the best location is. You right?
I appreciate it.
And like I said, like if you know Frank, he's smiling right now because he always had a big smile on his face, and he was one of those guys like he'd give you, you know, the shirt off his back if he could, and that's the type of guy he was. So I think it's great. So yes, we're good to go. All right. Thank you. All right. So we're going to move on to old business. Does anybody have any discussions about any of our old business that we've been having? I don't have anything personally right now, except the pickleball court is starting to take shape as far as everybody having the design down, where it's going. We're getting there. Everybody keeps saying it'll be winter by the time we have it done. They might be right, but I have to work it in with the highway department and the guys that are doing the work. And they got to get their normal work done first, and then they get on to the extra work that we keep piling on to them as a board. But it will get done. It is in the budget, and it will get done. So you guys got anything else? So on new business, so the MS4 public meeting. So there's new requirements by the state now for MS4 input. And what we need to do every year is to have a public meeting for MS4 input from the public. And I'm just going to tell you what they say we should be. It says the town of Marlborough is seeking public comment and input on the town's 2025 stormwater management plan. It's called the Swamp Plan and MS4 annual report. The documents are required by New York State Department of Environmental Conservation MS4 programs, the full requirements of which are outlined in municipal separate stormwater system. MS4 is permit number GP 024001. Both town documents are available for review on the town website. So this stuff's going to go on the website. What we need to do tonight is to make a public meeting, and that way we can get it in the paper and have a date. And the suggestion is September 8th, because we're also going to have a public meeting on our code update on that same day. So, and this timing is due to, we have to have a 10-day prior into the paper and how it's published in the paper. So I need a motion to, have an MS4 public meeting hearing on September 8th at 7 p.m. here in the courtroom.
I'll make a motion to have a public meeting on September 8th for set the code update for MS4.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Okay, thank you. Our engineering team will be happy. I don't actually have any public correspondence tonight. No one quit in the police department, Jerry? What's going on? No, we don't have any public comments, correspondence, so we're going to go right into public comments. Anybody got any public comments? Mickey, come on up.
Hi, Nikki Simonovsky. I'm just curious, I see the resolution that's making some zoning changes, and I'm just wondering if there's a specific project that's on board requiring this code change? I just wanted to know what brought it about.
Oh, this has been the county coming down on us for, I don't know, probably 5 years now.
Short-term rental things?
Not short-term rentals, for affordable housing. And this is a ADU, it's an accessory dwelling unit. So that means, like, Tom's going to explain it once we get to it.
Okay.
But it's basically an accessory dwelling unit to your structure to allow affordable housing for people and to, rent out their space to help also the people that have the house to subsidize their income and things like that. But the county has a lot of programs involved where I think it's up to $80,000, Tom, that they would actually help possibly fund people build these structures as long as they set the rental at a certain rate for affordable housing. So Tom's been working on this for about 6-7 months now, going back and forth with different other communities, what they did. And then recently, in the last month, we've been going back and forth with our attorneys, getting the wording properly, and that's pretty much what it's all about. So.
Great, so we're on board with the county. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's where it's coming from.
Okay.
I mean, they want us to do other stuff, but this is the first step, and I think would help a lot of people out there in the community, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And thank you for the support for the Scartatos plaque. I think that that's overdue and well-deserved, and I thank you for
Absolutely.
receiving that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else got public comments? Okay. And I'm like upset with Tina and is not here tonight. I'm gonna get on her tomorrow because her son is getting appointed, hopefully, to a part-time police dispatcher. I'm gonna tell everybody, so Resolution 71, we're gonna be appointing, hopefully, to a part-time dispatcher, Joseph Scotchafaro, who is my secretary's son, Tina's son, and I've known him for 15 years now or longer, and I've seen him grow up in front of my eyes. He went to college for this, and he fits right in with everybody down here. He's a great young gentleman, and I'm just going to tell you, he's going to make a great addition to our dispatcher unit, and hopefully someday become an actual police officer. And hopefully we could keep him here, but probably not, Jerry. But in the meantime, we definitely need dispatchers. So Resolution 71 is to appoint a part-time police dispatcher. Supervisor Corcoran proposes the following: whereas the Town of Marlborough Police Department has an open position for a part-time police dispatcher, and whereas a recommendation of the Chief of Police to appoint Joseph Scotchafaro, be it resolved that Joseph Scotchafaro be appointed effective immediately, and moves for its adoption.
Councilmember Sessa,
Yes.
Councilmember Kauke,
Yes.
Supervisor Corcoran.
Yes, absolutely. And just so you know, Joey's been interning now for 8 weeks, so he's been doing a good job for not getting paid. So that's good. So Resolution 72, this is what this happens periodically. We have to do this for retirement, the pension fund, and this one happens to be for me. This is Resolution 72, establish a standard workday for elected and appointed officials to report to New York State SLRS, New York State Local Retirement System. And basically, we have to report like what I work and when I work. I have to give them a 3-month synopsis of what I do for 3 months, and then they record that into the system, but we also have to pass a resolution. So Supervisor Corcoran proposes the following, the attached, is it here? Let me bring it up here. She should have it here.
It is, it's just.
This is the attached, which is certified by the town clerk, and this is what goes up there, how we get paid bi-weekly. And again, this, we have to do this periodically, so. And moves for its adoption.
Councilmember Sessa,
Yes.
Councilmember Cowkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Corcoran,
I guess I have to say yes, but I have to vote here, so yes, yes. It's all right. Now, before we go to Resolution 73, like I said, I would like to have Tom come up and just explain a little, if he can, about the ADU units and what sections of the code it's going to go under and how it kind of works. It's not that difficult to understand, but there's a lot of sections in the code where you have to make sure that it's right so it doesn't get out of control, right? So, and we'll have a public hearing so everybody can give their input.
So accessory dwelling units are exactly what they are. They're accessory to the principal being the one-family house. Years ago, over 22 years ago, before I got here, they allowed multiple single-family homes on a single lot. Now, that lot could have been 2 acres or 20 acres, but they allowed multiple dwellings on the lot. They did away with that in 2023. We went with a single dwelling unit per lot, no matter how large that lot was, so you had to subdivide. Over the years, New York State has emphasized accessory dwelling units. Ulster County has picked up on that. And again, the accessory dwelling unit is a separate unit, not a 2-family house. It has nothing to do with your principal unit. It has to do with accessory, being a separate building, detached building. They're emphasized through the county to help with the housing problems we're having in Ulster County right now, and the affordability of having it. So these accessory dwelling units have been very popular with children of homeowners and elderly for the, when we were going mother-daughter at one time where you were putting your mother or father downstairs in your house, this has given them a little bit more separation and independence. So you got that secondary dwelling unit. Again, that dwelling unit is also available for rental to help subsidize your income, whether it's for your taxes or any other reason, but it is no good for short-term rentals or bed and breakfast. They're not usable for that, because that basically eliminates what we're trying to do as far as getting the additional housing into the Ulster County. Ulster County itself is offering, like Supervisor Corcoran said, up to $80,000. There's an application that could be done to help build these accessory dwelling units on your property with town approvals anywhere in the county. So you would apply to the county for that and then have to have that as a low-income unit for 10 years. And if you fail to meet the requirements set by the county on the low-income rental, then you'd have to pay everything back. There's still a little problem that I believe is in policing that, but right now that's what they're trying to do. So we are now putting this in the R1 zone and the RAG1 zone, which are 1-acre zoning requirements. They will not be allowed in any other zone, won't be allowed in the R zone, which are the smaller dwellings in the hamlets, won't be allowed in the C zones, highway developments, or even in the business district. So again, in the R1 and the RAG1 zone, they'll be allowed with the minimum of 1-acre zoning. Again, have to be detached and meet all the requirements set forth with setbacks, Board of Health approvals, septic water, again, and they'll be put into 155.12 under the principal accessory units allowed in that district. So the 2 districts they'll be allowed into, so that you'll have the 2 in there. Again, we're going to limit it to a maximum of 2 bedroom, because again, this is not meant to exceed the principal dwelling unit. So you can't exceed the size of the principal dwelling unit on the property, up to 2 bedrooms, and at this point up to 900 square feet. So those numbers have been kicked around, and that's where we settled in at. So 900 square feet, no more than 2 bedrooms, meet all the setback requirements, be in the 2 districts that they're allowed in, no short-term rental, no bed and breakfast, and Board of Health approvals for septic and well for designs of that nature. So again, these are being pushed by the state, being pushed down through the counties, and at this point, we might be one of 10 municipalities that didn't have it on the books, so I started this about 8 months ago, rewrote the code and submitted it to the attorneys, and they came back with a few changes, but everything pretty much went 95% what I wrote, they agreed with, and there was a few odds and ends we had to clean up, but everything came back ready to go. So this again will, at this point, this past month, we just approved, if you do one of these accessory dwelling units, we are going to give you a discount on your taxes. Your county tax portion of your tax bill will be addressed, and you'll be able to be exempt from your county portion of your tax bill. You would file that with the assessor, and she would pull off that small portion of the county tax bill. Again, county's trying to put more housing units in Ulster County. Again, doesn't have to be affordable housing, but just housing units in Ulster County to help alleviate some of the housing problems we're having because of the short-term rentals and the bed and breakfasts taking away these housing units. And again, it's a good head start for children of parents that have these houses, and also for older parents. It's a good start.
How long is that? I forgot to ask. How long is that exemption? Is it only a year, like they first stated, or is it longer now?
The county exemption?
Yeah.
Right now it's going to be the first year at a certain percent, and then it'll dwindle down from 50% down to 50% to 0.
Okay.
So they're going to percentize it and basically reduce it every year that you have it. The $80,000 would basically, there's an application, I think there's only like 10 or 12 that we accept, because it's about $1 million that we have to give out. And at 80,000, that comes in at about 12 applicants that they would accept. There's a rigorous application and procedure that you'd have to fulfill. Anybody could apply for it. Again, and if you do get it, you have to prove over the next 10 years that it is low-income housing, and the county would provide you with that maximum amount of rental that you could charge.
I think, like you said, that's the sticking point. It's hard. How do you police that, right? That's the hardest part.
Still haven't answered that question for
After
me.
10 years.
I don't know.
So let me get this right, Tommy. So if you build a single-family home or a multi...
Can't have a multifamily home. You have to have a single-family home on your lot.
So if you build a single-family home in your lot, and they will give you $80,000 towards the construction of that house?
No, not of the principal house, of the accessory dwelling unit.
The accessory
Right,
house.
so you have a principal house on your property, or you build a principal house on your property, X amount of square footage, call it 2,000 square feet. Once that's built, you could apply to the county for an accessory dwelling unit. That accessory dwelling unit will have to meet the setback requirements, the district requirements, and the size requirement set forth by the town. Once you pass the town's requirements...
Within that 1 acre?
Within the 1 acre, correct, within the building lot acre. You have to have the minimum of 1 acre. If you have a principal house on, let's say, 0.8 acres, a pre-existing non-conforming lot, you won't be eligible for the accessory dwelling unit. You have to have the minimum requirement by the district, and in the district of R1 or RAG1, minimum requirement is 1 acre.
Okay.
All right, so in the past, if you wanted a second dwelling unit on your lot, and your lot was 3 acres, you'd have to subdivide to put that second unit on there, no matter what size it was. It could have been a mansion, it could have been the 900 square feet we're requiring, but would not be allowed on the same lot. Now we're allowing that accessory dwelling unit on the same lot, as long as you meet the minimum requirement. So if you have 1 acre and have a principal dwelling unit, you're allowed to do it. If you have 10 acres, have a principal, you're allowed to do it. Again, meeting setback requirements, Board of Health requirements, and other requirements.
What it also does is, since you don't have to separate properties, you don't have to go to the planning board and spend the time and the money to do all that, because it's allowed on the lot itself. So which does save the person who wants to do this to make an ADU unit a little less expensive in the planning process, because there's no lot line revisions or separation of properties. So as long as you meet the requirements that are set forth in the code, and the building department agrees that you meet all the requirements, then you could get a building permit. Is that correct, Tom?
That's correct. So you come in and sit down, and just like any building permit, I would do a review of that building permit and see if you're eligible, and then sit down and then make sure you meet all the requirements or fulfill the requirements with the Board of Health and anything else you might need. Ulster County licensed electricians, setbacks, Board of Health.
Yeah, it's like anything else.
It's like building a separate house.
So the separate house with a septic and everything?
Correct.
To do it, and will an acre suffice?
Should be, because when you build a house for an acre, you have, not only do you have your principal septic design area, you have your reserve area, so there's additional area to go.
With all the setbacks?
It's not, and again, it's not impossible. You build see what happens is you come in with me for what they call a letter to construct. And that letter to construct tells you how many bedrooms you could build. So if you come into me with the house and you build a 3-bedroom house, but you have a letter to construct for 4-bedroom, you have additional room in that field for an additional bedroom. So let's say you have a 4-bedroom letter to construct from the Ulster County Board of Health. You build a 3-bedroom house. Maybe in the future you thought you might need it, but you didn't need it today, so you build a 3-bedroom house with a 4-bedroom approval from the Ulster County Board of Health. Then you come in with your accessory dwelling unit and you want to put something small, 600 square feet, 1 bedroom. In theory, you could go back into that existing system that you have and add the additional bedroom with the engineer's report. So you could potentially use the existing system you have with an engineer's okay to say the way it exists is sufficient, or there's an expansion needed, bigger tank, additional fields, whatever that might be. So the engineer and Ulster County Board of Health are going to take a look at this existing system and give me the okay to either expand it, use it as is, or have to build a completely new system. Now again, older houses that exist, 70s, and they have a barn on the property, you could convert the barn as long as you meet standard building code. So this isn't just for new construction, this is for existing. So you have a house that was built in the 70s or 80s and have a detached garage, and that detached garage meets the square footage requirement, setback requirement. The garage can be converted into an accessory dwelling unit.
And be eligible for that money that's there.
Yeah, but again, you got to, when we're throwing this money around, you're talking about 800,000 residents in Ulster County, and we're giving out potentially 12.
Yeah.
So last year we had 88, almost 90 applicants, and we gave out last year 10. So again, not impossible, but it's, I wouldn't go into this assuming you're going to get $80,000 from the county.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest, the best thing about it, you have to have Board of Health approval, because that was the first thing I asked about, was the septic systems, and like, how do you fit another septic system on a 1-acre lot? Because you have to have a reserve spot on your property for if it
And the
fails.
setbacks, yeah, it's going to be tight.
So, but again,
it's not, like you
that's
said.
why the
it's
Board of
doable.
Health requirement in the code is a biggie, because, without that, even if you meet every other requirement, but the Board of Health requirement isn't suitable, you can't move forward, really. I mean, you got to have Board of Health approval. So there's a little checks and balance here on that, so which helps the building and code enforcement officers to police it a little. And I think what Tom said is true. Like the counties, in this county in particular, we have a lot of Airbnbs and short-term rentals that are, in the past, may have been units for regular rental for affordable rentals, but now they're Airbnb. And so now it takes away a lot of housing in the community for everyday normal people that are here 365 days a year, not just a week.
Well, that's right. Like, what was it? 5 years ago when I wrote the code for the short-term rental and bed and breakfast, I made it mandatory that you were a resident of the county.
Right.
A resident of the town, resident of the town. So if you weren't a resident of the town of Marlborough, you weren't allowed to have a bed and breakfast or a short-term rental. And what that did, it cut down or basically eliminated people just buying houses in Marlborough and just renting them out on a short-term rental basis, which was the problem that's happening in the county. Now, most municipalities, I wouldn't say most, some, half municipalities don't have that written into their code. that says that you have to be a resident here. And what's happening, like Woodstock, people are buying houses in Woodstock and renting them out as short-term rentals and bed and breakfast, and they're not available for local residents. They're no longer available because they're being outbid. So kids that are growing up there don't get an opportunity to stay in their hometown because they're being outbid and outpriced. And that's basically one of the stipulations in the county's terminology, is that new house construction and purchasing of housing is, people are being outbid and outpriced out of Ulster County for local residents. So we want to keep our local residents in town. We want to keep our kids in town. We want to keep our seniors in town. So our short-term rental and our bed and breakfast eliminates people coming from out of town buying these houses and renting them out. And this basically piggybacks that and says, build the accessory dwelling unit, give your kid a starter home right on your own property, bring mom and dad over. And what's happening in a lot of these situations is that the principal use, mom and dad, who no longer need the big house, are turning them over to the kids, and mom and dad are going into the accessory dwelling unit, which is smaller, which again, you're finding most people trying to downsize, and this is a perfect opportunity to downsize but still stay on your property. So, the children, instead of going, either start in the starter house and then end up flipping into the principal house, and then the mother and father end up in the accessory dwelling unit because they don't need the larger size. So it's a win-win all the way around, as long as we keep it out of the hands of short-term rentals, bed and breakfast, and just keep them accessory.
But this
I
is
do.
also
I was questioning this when I read the original code because I don't, I guess, have the aversion to the short-term rental that we see in other places. If you look at it from that perspective, that it would also be helpful for someone to, there's not a house in Marlborough that's for sale for less than $700 and some odd $1,000 for any substantial size of property at this point. To be able to purchase that property and put an accessory dwelling unit on it, and I think you'd make more off of that accessory dwelling unit on a short-term rental than you will as a longer-term rental. And then a longer-term rental, if these can be up to 2 bedrooms, you could feasibly have children in them, and adding to our school district costs and things like that, where you don't have that with a short-term rental. So I'm questioning why we wouldn't leave it up to the property owner to decide whether they wanted to do short-term rental or monthly or longer rental, and then have the county subsidies only be available for the long-term rentals.
Because it's basically totally against what New York State and Ulster County are trying to do, is to create housing. If you want to rent a hotel, go to a hotel. Because basically, I also represent the Lodging Coalition, and the Lodging Coalition has taken a hit over the years. And Ulster County depends on tourism money, and tourism money comes from bed tax and comes from everything else. And a lot of the short-term rentals and B&Bs have been trying to escape that, and we've tracked that down over the last couple of years, where Ulster County has lost multi-millions of dollars because they're not being registered. Now, when you come to Marlborough and do it, we obviously, before you even get through the planning board process, we make sure your registration through your bed tax, your occupancy tax, your sales tax is all registered before we even allow it. And I do an inspection every year of those things, making sure that everybody's on top of it. But the idea behind an accessory dwelling unit is not to create theoretically more income for the individual, is to create housing in Ulster County and New York. And if you don't eliminate the short-term rentals and the bed and breakfast from these accessory dwelling units, then all you're doing is creating more money for that individual coming in from out of state, potentially renting these units out, and not giving the opportunity for local residents or Ulster County residents to basically have the opportunity to stay in Ulster County.
Right, but here that wouldn't be a case anyway, because they'd have to live, per our code, you'd have to live in the property, the principal residence, to have a short-term rental.
Right, so
Under our
then,
code.
so you eliminate that housing unit for somebody else that wants to stay and live in Ulster County.
Yeah, no,
Because the idea of creating accessory dwelling units is to create housing in Ulster County, not to create an additional income for residents.
yes and no, because the idea of an accessory dwelling unit is, an accessory dwelling unit for various purposes. The idea of Ulster County's definition and Ulster County's program is to create permanent housing, but accessory dwelling units exist all over the world, everywhere, and can be used for multiple purposes. So I wouldn't say it's the idea of the accessory dwelling unit specifically, but it is the idea of this program.
Well, not the program. The program doesn't care. The program doesn't care because it's 10 units out of 500 we do a
Fair.
year. New York
Right.
State is started this. New York
Yeah.
State create housing in New York State so people stay in New York State because what you said, if it's a $700,000 house, you cannot afford to stay in New York State. So New York State is losing residents on a large amount, especially to Florida. And Ulster County is saying we're losing people because the kids can't stay in here. So how does New York State create housing that doesn't cost $700,000, accessory dwelling units? And if you create accessory dwelling units strictly for income purposes for the individual who owns it on short-term rentals, you've defeated the purpose of New York State, you've defeated the purpose of Ulster County, you've defeated the purpose of people leaving New York State because there's no housing in New York State less than $700,000. But now with the accessory dwelling unit, you're allowing people to stay in New York State because they could afford $2,000 a month on an accessory dwelling unit. And, so again, the idea of the accessory dwelling unit isn't to make money for the individual. It's there if there's an opportunity on a monthly rental, but not a short-term rental, because that does New York State and Ulster County no good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how you look at it, and I really think there's various ways to look at this. I mean, you're looking at it as somebody that's already here and already owns, and maybe their kids are coming back, but I think there's various ways to look at that. I think it could be somebody that's trying to come into the community that's looking for something that this makes that larger house more affordable for them. But listen, I don't have a dog in the fight here. I'm not putting an accessory dwelling unit on any property anytime soon, so I'm interested to hear what the public has to say at the public hearing.
I like to say, if I got a house, if you got $700,000, come and get it. But no, yeah, I think we're going to get a lot of good public feedback and a good discussion. I think like what Tom's trying to say is like the intent of this is, that's the intent of why we looked at this, is to try to get more housing rather than more short-term rentals. I see both
but
sides.
trying to
I
get
see
more
what you're saying.
affordable housing,
But I think that's
right?
what the intent was.
No, I hear you.
When we started discussing this, it was, we don't want to create more short-term rentals. We want to create, accessory dwellings for people to live in and stay here. And, if they stay here and they live here, the town as a whole does better, right? If you do it as just short-term rentals, just that person does better. And so what we're trying to do is make the town and the county be a little better, because those people will be in your community, they'll spend money in your community, they'll become part of your community. So that's the idea behind it. Not saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
I think
that's
there's
just my
multiple
Yeah.
ways to look at
So
it.
that's just the way. All right, I'm gonna move on to the actual resolution. I'm not gonna read every word of this because it's a long resolution. I'm gonna tell everybody, if, go online onto our site, and you could read this as much as you want, and you could take notes as much as you want, and you could come to the public hearing on September 8th and tell us all your good input, because I know we're gonna get a lot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna read the first paragraph, and then I'm gonna go to the section that states where we're gonna have the public hearing, and then I'm gonna go to a vote that we could go to a public hearing. So, Resolution 73 to introduce the local law of the year 2025, a local law of the town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, amending various provisions of Chapter 155 zoning of the Code of the Town of Marlborough as follows: amending Section 155-1 terms defined, adding an additional special use to Section 155-12B, R1 residential districts, adding the additional special use to Section 155-12C, RAG1 rural agricultural district, and adding a new Section 155-32.6, detached accessory dwelling units on a single-family property. And then it says, Supervisor Court proposes the following, and I'm going to read this section too. Section 155-1, define the code of amending, add definitions under dwelling as follows: deletions are stricken, additions are underscored. And then you could read the rest. And we're going to go all the way to where it says.
It says, you said September 8th, over here it says notice of public hearing, August 25th.
We have to make an amendment to,
And then we're going to change that. We're going to change that, Manny. So, I'm going to get to the section where Supervisor Corcoran advised the town board that pursuant to municipal home rule law, I'm catching up.
I'm scrolling.
We're almost there.
Where are you?
Almost to, keep going, right before that. Right there. All right.
Okay.
Supervisor Clerk advised the town board for pursuant of the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, it will be necessary to hold a public hearing upon this proposed local law. The following resolution was offered by one of you guys,
Wait, Manny County.
by Councilman Couchy,
Councilman
and seconded by, gotta do it,
Councilmember Sessa.
who it moves for its adoption. Whereas on August 11th, 2025, Supervisor Corcoran has introduced a local law of the town of Marlborough to be known as the Town of Marlborough Local Law Number. There's no number until we pass it, of the year 2025. A local law of the town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, amending various provisions of Chapter 155 zoning of the Code of the Town of Marlborough as follows: amending Section 155-1, terms defined, adding an additional permitted accessory use for Section 155-12B, R1 residential district, add an additional permitted accessory use to Section 155-12C, RAG1 rural agricultural district, and adding a new Section 155-32.6, detached accessory dwelling units on a single-family property. Resolved that the public hearing be held in relation to the proposed changes as set forth in forms notice hereinafter, provided in which hearing parties of interest citizens shall have the opportunity to be heard. And this is where we're going to change this, where it says the public hearing will be held on, it's going to be September 8th, 2025, and that's due to not be able to get it in the paper in time, the way they work their schedule. So that's going to be held on September 8th, 2025 at 7:00 p.m. Prevailing time at the notice of said meeting shall be published in the official newspaper of general circulation of the town of Marlborough by the town clerk at least 10 days prior to such hearing, and the notice shall be in the following forms. Again, it's basically what I just said. I'm not going to repeat the whole thing. And further notice that the copy of the aforesaid proposed local law will be available for examination at the office of the clerk of the town of Marlborough, 21 Milton Turnpike, Milton, New York, 12547, between the hours of 8 and 4 p.m. on all business days between the date of this notice and the date of the public hearing. Take further notice that all persons interested and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard in said proposal at the time and place aforesaid. Milton, dated on August 11th, 2025. The foregone resolution was duly put to a vote, which resulted as follows.
Amendment to section 9.
Hmm?
You might not have to make an amendment to section 9. There's something in there that doesn't belong.
Well,
Towards the bottom, so first the Ulster County Planning Board, which is correct. But after that, first the Town of Marlborough Planning Board, that's incorrect. This is a principal accessory use. It's not
yeah. I know, we talked about this. I don't know why she had, I don't know why I missed that. Yeah, section 9, the last statement, whereas the town board refers the matter to the town of Marlborough Planning Board pursuant to Town Code 155-49, is going to have to be stricken out of there because it doesn't have to go there. That was what we were just talking about.
I'll make the motion to edit section 9 to strike the line that says the town board refers this matter to the town of Marlborough Planning Board pursuant to Town Code 155-49.
Need a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, we just talked about this today. Why is,
We did talk about it, I noticed it was in there, so.
She sent a new one as maybe the newest agenda.
Motion to change the date from,
I did change the date.
September 8th. Yeah, I just want a motion to change it to September
Well, I read it, and we're going to vote on it. I read it,
8th. Okay, all right, so that's fine.
right?
Okay, Supervisor Corcoran,
Yes.
Councilman Cowden,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sessa.
Yes.
All right. Manny, go for it.
Okay, 7:55, and make a motion to adjourn.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Thanks, everybody.